And here we are with Tami Forero from Peer Killers. Thank you, Tami, for being here with us today with Modern Revenue Architect. We had a brief conversation before in which you shared your story. It's a crazy story. And if anything, let's start with yourself, who you are, who you serve in the marketplace, and the story that you can tell.
Sure. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. Well, I'm Tami Forero. As you said, I have a company called Fear Killers with a Z. So I have a few different things under that umbrella, but my main company is consulting and coaching. And my background is that I was a starved musician out of college and kind of fell into the event planning area in banks. I was working at banks. I was a creative back in the day before there was culture or fun or any of that kind of stuff in corporate. And I was the creative girl that they'd come to plan things, baby showers or fun events or whatever. And I ended up becoming an event planner and found that I had a skill that I could create an event, which was really an experience that would elicit emotional responses. And then that always equaled money. So for many years, companies were struggling. I was internal as an employee for about 13 years in South Florida. And I worked helping those companies solve their problems using events as the tool to do that and made them millions and millions of dollars. It was a great experience. I had great leaders that gave me a lot of rope to do that. And then eventually I moved to Colorado where I live now. And I started my own business doing event planning, mostly corporate events, all different kinds and around the world. So we ended up doing things in about 30 countries. And it was a great, great company. I loved it. I built it from scratch from my kitchen table with $25 and grew it to many millions of dollars with no debt. And then I got investors. I franchised the company. That went really well. So we decided to take that around the world. And then a few larger event companies like mine, corporate event companies in other states, their CEOs wanted to retire and they reached out to me and said, we'd like to retire, but we only want to sell our company to you. And so I went back to those investors and they gave me a bag of money to do some acquisition work. So we were kind of narrowing down several companies to maybe two to start with. And between the acquisitions and my company and the franchise, I was really set up in 2020 to fulfill my 30-year dream of building a company that I could sell and then walk away with a few $1,000,000 in my pocket. And then I wanted to go on to continue to do coaching and consulting and speaking, which are the things I really ended up loving, throughout that time. And then you may have heard a very bad thing happened in 2020. And I was literally at the table with some of these companies and investors and attorneys and stuff in March in Las Vegas when the hotel came into our meeting space and said, listen, you guys probably need to leave. They're closing the airport, and the shutdown began. So I literally left those meetings where I was trying to finalize all of these deals that were going to make my dreams come true. And in turn, ended up losing everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Some people say that, they don't, but I really mean it. And everything I'd worked for those 30 years and all those years in my business and all the things, that were very exciting because of the shutdown, the hospitality industry was just decimated completely. And I lost the business and all my money and my team and the clients and everything. So the next 2 years were pretty grim in that I had to spend literally 2 years to dismantle everything I'd built because you're dealing with attorneys and contracts and clients and investors and all the things. And it took forever. And we kept thinking like everyone that the change was going to happen. We were going to start moving jobs to the next year. And then the next year became never. So unfortunately, that's what happened. So it was a very sad story. It was hard for me. I never saw that coming. And I never saw having to completely change my entire life like that in my 50s. So that's a kind of a sad, grim tale, but that's the truth. And So then from there, I thought, what am I going to do now? And after those 2 years of dismantling, I kind of thought, well, should I just get a job for now? I tried all these different things that weren't really working. And so I said, you know what? I love coaching and I love consulting. I have a skill to help any business solve a problem. And most times dealing with money, as we know, with profitability and that kind of thing, or people or processes. So, although there's a lot of people out there that do that, I kind of have the creative bent, in that regard. So I decided to start helping businesses again, and I'm starting with the hospitality industry because that's where I've spent most of my career. So it's been great, and it's not been my chosen path, but now I've also learned so much. If companies are dealing with that, closing a business or planning to leave a legacy or to sell the company, now I've done with all that stuff. If you're trying to get investors and don't know how, I've done it. So in that regard, I guess, I've really added to what I've known. And so now I can maybe offer even more in-depth offerings to my clients.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Tammy. I really appreciate you being so transparent with the story. It's a tough one, obviously, to swallow.
Yeah.
But obviously, you came up stronger than before, and the resilience and the things that you've learned. You can help now anyone that is in that avenue to guide them. So, which is what you're doing right now. Yeah. So, the P&L, the people and processes. In that sense, what are the things that let's say in terms of transformation that you have done lately with some business owners? What are you helping them, or what is the most exciting thing that you apply when it comes to those three things that you just mentioned?
Well, it's still early days, so I have a few examples, but I find that especially when I started with the hospitality industry, there's a lot of creative people in hospitality. They're awesome at making an event. They're awesome at making food, whatever it is that they do. They're very creative and they're very right brain. So oftentimes the left brain skills and the business skills are maybe not as developed, and they've had to learn from other people that maybe weren't as developed, and so that has been a great opportunity for me to help with number one, making people more profitable, because I've worked with clients, for example, like a wedding planner who was doing over 120 weddings a year, which is a huge amount of work. And they were all expensive. They were all high dollar. They were all destination type things. And yet she was broke and she couldn't figure it out. And so I actually went there to her office and looked at all of her processes and what she was doing, and actually stayed with her and her family to see kind of the whole dynamic. And I could instantly pinpoint, the things that she could change. And in those few days, even though it was hard to hear, some of it, we got her out of debt, and I showed her some money that she was leaving on the table to the tune of almost $1 million. And so by the time I left, she was literally $1 million richer. That's pretty important. That doesn't happen for every client, but in that specific instance, we really streamlined everything. And I think a lot of times people feel like to have a real business, they have some idea in their head of they've got to have this beautiful office and all the staff and the beautiful car and maybe whatever the advertising, all the stuff. And the reality is that's not the case for every company. You can be very lean and mean and just be highly profitable. And so I think sometimes it's the mental barriers that people go through and they put on themselves. The other big thing is people want work-life balance, which I know that has been, talked on to death. But the reality is still people don't know how to do it. And in hospitality, that is one of the most stressful jobs on the planet. It's always voted the top 5 every year behind soldiers and surgeons. So it's very time intensive. It's very stressful. And so it's very difficult. People just want to do the most for their clients at the expense of themselves, and definitely at the bottom line. So being able to come in and teach people how to really do that, because I've already done it. I've done it in my businesses. Every person that worked on my team did it. It wasn't just me having the high life and everybody else had to work hard. We all enjoyed our life. And so I learned how to do those things in an industry where I was told that was impossible and made millions of dollars. So I don't feel that it's true that in any industry, but definitely hospitality, that you have to choose. Are you going to be successful? Are you going to have a life? Are you going to be in a different industry? So I think you can have all of that at once. It just takes very specific strategies. And I was so fortunate that other people taught me that. And so I built my business that way, and I never had to deal with those things. But when I started helping other people, I found that those were the basic things. They're not making enough profit. They don't know how to price for creative services, for example. They don't know, basic things on how much time they're spending on everything. I mean, these are all basic business things, but they translate differently in each, I think, in each industry. So, and it's really setting up very specific strategies to help with those things. So we've seen people make tons more money and have a lot more time at home and really kind of love it again. Because sometimes you could love being an entrepreneur, you could even love the industry you're in, but you can very quickly hate it when it becomes your all in all, or you don't have enough money to make payroll this week, or fill in the blank that a lot of us as entrepreneurs have gone through. But those things don't have to happen. There's not like some hazing that has to happen when you first start as an entrepreneur, that you have to go through these things. You don't have to. You can start successful from the beginning. And I only did that because other people taught me, and I want to help teach other people that too.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just made some notes there where I love the both mentality, where it's not like, oh, I will die on the field trying to make it, and then I will just discard my family or whatever. It is both things. Like you can be successful in the hospitality industry, but at the same time you also can be there for your family with like all the pricing and the profits and everything laid out correctly, so that you can hire, delegate, and help yourself with the correct processes. So that's something that I hear all the time. People just operating a business without knowing, and you can just be leaving money on the table, like you said, or not knowing, because nobody was born knowing how to run a business, and they just do what they can, right? So
Right.
this is why people hire you, right?
Mm. Yeah, and I think it's just a little different. Like some of the things that I've done or I see being successful for entrepreneurs are not what you're told to. They're the opposite of what you're told to do. And they've all worked for me. So I think that's where I differentiate myself in the market a little bit, because it's not rocket science, most things about how to read a P&L or how to have more profit, but it's the way you do it. And there's at least 5 specific ways that I do things differently probably than other people, but they make these businesses successful much faster without all the drama. And I know it sounds too good to be true, but it's not, because other people taught me who were not in the hospitality industry, but I applied it and saw it work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And where do you think the industry is going after what happened? I think we were mentioning that if they close everything again, there's a lot of people, for whatever reason, they're not going to listen, and the life will continue. I don't think the COVID drama is going to ever happen like it did, like closing everything. And so in the US, I think it was a little bit more open. In the Canadian market, I think we were like 2 years closed, and it was horrible. I remember my kids, when we were going to the playground, they were just staring at other kids, like trying to mingle with them, and not knowing how to react and things. It was just so strange and weird. So what's your take in the industry with AI, with like the staffing as well, rotation because of the millennials and younger generations, whatever? What do you think is going to happen on the next few years on the event planning and hospitality industries?
Well, I think it's coming back, and it really depends on where you are. Again, it's funny because I have good friends that have wonderful event companies in Canada, and they really did suffer during that time, but they also pivoted and found new ways of doing things, and now they're kind of ahead of us in some of this comeback. In America, it really depended on where you lived, and I live in a state where it was very open, and so even though there's places that were very open during COVID, my companies were international, so we were mostly doing events overseas, so that was all gone. And we had some in the US too, but mostly overseas. So um, you know I've been asked this many times, and it's hard because you'll hear people in interviews or in, on LinkedIn over going, hey, we're back, blah, blah. And then you look at the numbers and you find that we're not back. Like there's not as much happening as there was pre-COVID. So I think it depends on the industry. Social is always going to be good, like weddings and personal events. Those guys came back right away, and all the vendors that support that, so catering, photography, all that kind of stuff, they got busy kind of instantly, once that happened. There were a lot of event companies during COVID that went online, as you probably know. So many people were trying to do events online. That really did kind of, for some, bring them through, so that they didn't lose everything. That was totally not I hated that. I didn't want to do that. So that wasn't my thing. So for some people, it was saving grace. Some people weren't. I would say going forward, the challenges that I'm seeing now, like the corporate events that we did that were kind of large and all over the world and whatever, a lot of companies cannot get insurance for that anymore, because insurance companies are aware that now that there's been a shutdown and all over the world, that could happen again. And it doesn't always have to be an illness. Maybe it'll be climate change or something else. So once they found that the rug could be pulled out from under them from an outside entity like a government, they don't want to be left holding the bag like they were last time. So that's been a big challenge. And then a lot of people lost everything, like me, are not going back into it because it was just too much damage, to go in full time. So I don't want to sound bleak, but I do think that things are coming back, and they will come back. But I think that people are doing it very cautiously, so the budgets aren't the same and that kind of stuff. Now, I'm making very big generalizations because obviously there's going to be pockets of things happening, and some companies don't care if they're insured or not. So there's that. But it's just, I think that people are always going to have it in the back of their mind. And they've had to change all their contracts and all that kind of stuff around it. And we'll just see what happens because we don't know now. I mean, I never thought in my entire life that the government could come in and shut down my whole industry and make it where I couldn't work. That I would have called you a liar. You know what I mean? And now that it's happened, It's kind of like shell shock, right? So I think you've got that wide variety of people in the industry that are really gung-ho. And I think social's always going to be very profitable. Corporate's going to be a little bit more tenuous in that they're being more cautious or they can't get insurance. So that's a very long answer to your short question, but I think it's a wait and see thing, and maybe it'll take 10 more years, before we're back. But yeah, I think it's gonna be just different. I think a lot of companies, for example, are doing smaller events and more local to their office. And they're going back to having inside people, meaning like a secretary or somebody doing the planning instead of hiring out professionally. So we've seen that happen before in the world, but it's cyclical and it'll come back around again when they'll start realizing they need professionals, So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And I've seen on some trends, people say, I don't know, there's a major comeback. There's not, like, there's opinions, obviously, and I really, obviously you're inside on the industry. I'm not as keen in that, so thank you for that. I wanted to just maybe close with some final thoughts in terms of some recommendations on anybody that is thinking on or joining the industry. What would you say to them, or what can you recommend for them to take action on? It could be someone joining the industry, or it could be someone in the industry, maybe having maybe a photographer, maybe someone, or a wedding planner. That story that you mentioned, it was great. What numbers or what KPIs should they be looking at to make sure that they are on track to financial positiveness?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I'd say those are all separate things. So I'd say for people getting into the industry, as always with any industry, education is key. I would always tell them pick some really good conferences, go to the classes, and then learn from people that have already done it. Unfortunately, a lot of people that are, especially younger people that are starting, they're just so used to the internet. So they'll just go online and go all these classes. And half the time, those people don't have any real world experience. So you really do, in that case, want to find people that are seasoned in hospitality, whether it's catering or event planning or photography, whatever it is, and really get good, actionable, information. Because everyone that's trying to just sell something, sell a class, sell whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. But if they don't have the career to back that up and say, here's what I've done for the last 15, 10, 30, 50 years, I wouldn't listen to them because they don't know yet. You know what I mean? So I would say get education, really find people in the industry that are going to, be willing and open to give you good information. Not to plug myself, but you've got to go after good consultants and coaches who've already been there, who've done that, who can shave years off from your success. And that happened to me because I was already a planner for 13 years, but I didn't own a business being a planner. That's a very different skill set. I didn't know anything about owning a business. But when I started, other people helped me. And I can look back and tell you exactly that they shaved 5 years off from my success. Within 1 year of starting a company, I was already working for Fortune 500s around the world. That does not happen, but it can if you got the right person to help you. So that's what I would tell them is really, align yourself and find people that are going to help you because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I would say for KPIs and that kind of thing, you need to be profitable. And people don't understand, like, just breaking even is not profitable. And you've got to have money in your account after all the bills are paid so that, your company has money to work with to grow and expand and buy equipment and whatever. And I think that really goes back to learning how to price and how to sell. And many people in hospitality, they're not gifted at that. So I think there's a big opportunity for those of us who are to help.
Beautiful. I like that. Pricing and selling and profit. I wanted to just ask you one last thing. If someone wants to contact you, what's the best way to do it? LinkedIn, is that okay? Somebody wants to talk to you or message you, ask you a question. LinkedIn or your email, what's best?
So LinkedIn, I'm Tami Forero, TamiForero. They can get me there. You can email me, Tami@fearkillers.com, which is Fear Killers with a Z. So you can get me anywhere. I'm on Instagram. Fear Killers has Instagram and Facebook, and then you can get me under my own name and on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll be posting all that information on the episode on YouTube if you're watching this. So yeah, thank you very much, Tami. I want to have probably another one in 6 months or maybe a year and see where you have came so far with the projects that you're working with.
Great. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you very much, Tami.
Thank you.